The Galactic Council's central chamber shimmered under ambient starlight, refracting through a dome of hexaglass. Representatives of 42 sentient species hovered, slithered, or sat within their respective platforms, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of pride and arrogance. The conversation had turned, as it often did, toward the humans. "They're graceless," rasped Overseer Krell of the Selniks, her segmented mandibles clicking in contempt. "Primitive bipeds. Still rely on chemical propulsion for most of their weaponry." "Projectile slingers," hissed a Quaritch delegate, his tendrils twitching. "They still use bullets. Physical ammunition. Can you imagine the inefficiency?" Laughter rippled across the chamber, in various frequencies and tones. Someone even played a recorded clip. A human soldier tripping over a root during training, followed by another wrestling with a jammed rifle. It was grainy footage, but it served its purpose. The chamber erupted in derision. At the rear of the chamber, silent and motionless, sat Admiral Jewel Keen of the Quaritch Dominion. Unlike his peers, he did not laugh. His yellow compound eyes flicked to the center dais, where Earth's envoy, a gray-haired man named Captain Elias Monroe, stood unwavering amidst the mockery. Monroe waited for silence, though it never truly arrived. "You misjudge us," he said calmly, his accent clipped and deliberate. "Humans aren't graceful. We're not genetically modified for perfection. But clumsy doesn't mean incapable." Krell snorted. "What are you capable of?" "Falling in interesting ways." Monroe didn't blink. "Winning wars you've already lost." Quietly, more laughter. Someone barked. "Then perhaps you'll enjoy showing us. The Skarn Dominion is devouring colonies in the Vorin Belt. Show us how your snipers trip their way to victory." Jewel Keen's deep voice cut through the haze. "Enough." The laughter died down. "The Skarn have overrun 3 council strongholds in the last 6 cycles. Their cloaking fields are destabilizing planetary defenses. We've lost 2 fleets and 7,000 ground troops. Perhaps a different approach is needed." Krell's voice dripped with sarcasm. "You propose we deploy humans? One of their bullet men?" Jewel Keen turned his gaze toward Monroe. "I propose we observe one." Monroe inclined his head slightly. "Permission to deploy 1 sniper team. No support, just observation. You'll know if we're worth the invitation." No one approved, but no one stopped it either. 2 days later, deep within the stealth frigate Wintergale, Cryo Unit Number 07 hissed as the frost receded. A figure slowly sat up, muscles taut and frame lean, every motion precise despite the years in stasis. Pale blue eyes blinked once, then focused. "Sergeant Orion Kale," said the onboard AI. "Earth Recon Unit. Authorization received. Deployment window begins in 3 hours." Kale didn't respond. He stood and began dressing, layer by layer. His black armor fitted snug, bearing no insignia. It had no need for recognition. On the observation moon of Varela 3, Council forces were entrenched and desperate. Skarn raiding parties had landed with near impunity, moving under shield domes that scrambled targeting sensors. Command posts were losing connection faster than replacements arrived. General Jewel Keen watched from a reinforced bunker, studying the holographic map. "This is a losing pattern." An aide approached. "The human has arrived." Kale stood before them, silent, visor retracted. The council officers eyed him like one might regard a museum relic. He said nothing. Jewel Keen stepped forward. "You've seen our tactical layout?" Kale nodded. "We can't track them once they enter the ridge shadows. Thermal scans fail. Drones drop offline." Kale looked at the map. "Ridge line is broken. Echo valleys. Wind changes every 80 meters. Your sensors are blind because they rely on what they see." Jewel Keen narrowed his gaze. "And you?" Kale picked up a small council-issued targeting module and switched it off. "I listen." The humans had always believed in minimalism when it came to combat. Where others built towering exosuits and plasma mortars, they trained patience. Breathing, gravity, wind curvature, the art of stillness. An hour later, Kale lay prone beneath a rock shelf, his rifle a matte black shadow in his hands. He did not move for 57 minutes, not when insects crawled over him. Not when Skarn scouts passed within meters of his location. He waited. Then, a slight glint. A Skarn officer, armored in command plating, giving orders beneath a camo shield. Kale's breath slowed. A heartbeat later, the rifle kicked, softly. No sound, no trace. The Skarn's head snapped back, and the body crumpled. The council feed showed chaos. Skarn ranks scattering, shouting in their own guttural language. Another shot, then a third. Officers fell like dominoes. Back at the bunker, Juro Keen watched as the enemy formation unraveled without warning. How the... Kale's voice crackled over comms for the first time. Officers first. Structure next. Panic follows. Krell, watching from a secondary channel, muttered, "This is luck. One engagement." Juro Keen disagreed. "This is art." By nightfall, the Skarn had pulled back. Not because they were overrun, because they feared what they could not see. Rumors among their ranks had begun. Of an invisible death, of a ghost on the rocks. Kale didn't return to base. He stayed in the field. Juro Keen sent no orders. He didn't need to. The human wasn't clumsy. He was aiming. The moonscape of Arella 3 was a jagged expanse of violet dust and basalt ridges, its sky veiled by perpetual storm clouds laced with static. In the hollow silence of the twilight zone, Ori and Kale lay motionless beneath a makeshift ghillie net. Hours passed, marked only by his steady breath and the soft clicks of his analog scope adjusting to minuscule shifts in light. He didn't twitch. He didn't speak. He waited. Inside the forward command shelter, General Juro Keen reviewed thermal satellite feeds that displayed nothing but interference and atmospheric smearing. A half-dozen council species barked in frustration around him, each blaming the other for tactical failures. The Skarn had pushed through 2 more ridgelines overnight, and local sensors were now blind to movements beyond 20 meters. Every automated defense had been sabotaged or bypassed. "The jamming field fluctuates in cycles," said the Vol-3 technician, her 6-finger hands flickering over the interface. "But our drones can't compensate fast enough. They're baiting us," Juro Keen said, taking commanders in sequence, destabilizing command structure. "And your Earth sniper?" asked Krell coldly from the holoscreen above. "Still hiding behind rocks?" Juro Keen gestured to the display. "He's not hiding. He's choosing." A Skarn patrol crept through a ravine south of Echo Point. 7 soldiers in stagger formation, unaware they were being watched. Kale tracked them through his scope without blinking, each target marked, each breath measured. Wind, steady, 6 kilometers per hour east. Gravity, 92 centimos. Distance, 812 meters. He exhaled. 1 shot. The lead Skarn fell. A neat hole bored through his ocular lens. The others froze. No sound. No muzzle flash. Just a sudden, surgical subtraction of their commander. They broke formation. Kale fired twice more, shifting barely a hair between shots. 2 more Skarn collapsed. The last 4 scattered, one stumbling over his own weapon. Kale watched, but did not shoot again. The message had already been delivered. Back at base, feeds lit up with chatter. Skarn communications were intercepted, fractured with fear and superstition. Mentions of a silent death, a ghost without heat, and steel breath from a void. Panic was setting in, not among the council forces, but the enemy. Juro Keen leaned forward. This is working." "It's just fear," Krell insisted. "Fear doesn't win wars. It cripples them before the first real engagement," said Juro Keen. "And he's doing it alone." Kale relocated within the hour, moving under cover of seismic shadows and electromagnetic blind spots. He didn't use standard council comms. His messages came through a tight band analog pulse, untraceable by Skarn tech. Each report was minimal: coordinates, wind speed, enemy structure. Nothing more. The sniper wasn't interested in sharing thoughts. His role was action. Inside a shielded command tent on the next ridge, a Quarix unit commander approached Juro Keen hesitantly. "Our troops are restless. They believe the human is some kind of executioner. They ask for his blessing before patrols." Juro Keen suppressed the urge to smile. "Let them believe what they want." He's earned it. A day later, the Skarn altered tactics. They no longer clustered. Officers traveled apart, protected by counter-sniper drones and cloaking flares. They began deploying deep-burrow ECM units to mask thermal trails and distort audio signatures. It was, in the Council's estimation, a reasonable counter. Kale had already adapted. He studied the new deployments from a height, watching how Skarn drones buzzed in search patterns. Broad, erratic, too predictable. He set passive traps along their expected sweep zones, mirrors to mislead, decoy signatures to lure. He fired no shots that day. But the following morning, 2 of the drones crashed into the same crater, fried by one of his custom electromagnetic spikes. The Skarn commander station in that region was found impaled by his own drone's debris. Kale's kill count rose. Not chaotically, not in clusters, but one at a time, like threads being snipped from a tapestry. He wasn't just removing soldiers. He was unraveling structure. And the Council began to understand. They sent a small alien team to deliver a new directive, additional support, more humans, a full battalion perhaps. Kale met them on the edge of the northern plateau. He refused the offer. "Too many boots," he said quietly. "They'll hear us coming." The alien lieutenant tilted his horned head. "You intend to keep operating alone?" Kale slung his rifle over his shoulder. "That's the point." The team left without further argument. Later that evening, Kale set up atop a skeletal plateau overlooking the Skarn's mobile relay base. Through his scope, he saw them moving erratically, officers shouting, drones flying in panicked loops. Their formation was tight, nervous. He waited until a Skarn commander stepped outside his shield dome to bark orders. One shot. The commander's body crumpled against a support beam. Then Kale fired again, not at a target, but at the solar array. The shot cracked the power conduit, throwing half the outpost into blackness. The chaos that followed could be heard even from his perch. Alarms, confusion, desertion. From the command bunker, Jurokeen watched satellite feeds light up with fleeing thermal signatures. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. One man, one rifle. Krell's voice crackled again, this time quieter. He's forcing a retreat. Jurokeen didn't reply. He simply watched the feed as Kale stood, faded into the storm haze, and disappeared from view. The Skarn weren't just losing soldiers. They were losing the will to fight. The Skarn no longer walked with confidence. Patrols that once moved in rigid, predatory formations now staggered, scanning empty ridgelines, their weapons twitching at shadows. They whispered each other in clicks and hisses, unaware their own transmissions were being triangulated. Somewhere beyond their perception, Orion Kale was listening. By the 4th day, the Skarn command adjusted their approach. Recon squad were replaced with drone phalanxes equipped with thermal scatter fields. They launched sweeping flyovers, laying sonic mines in patterns meant to flush out hidden marksmen. Kale evaded them all. He crawled under their signals, burrowed through their blind zones, and waited. The forward council base was eerily quiet. What chatter remained was reverent. Kale's call sign, Whisper, was being spoken across dozens of frequencies. He had not asked for the name. He simply became it. In a war room dimly lit by flickering maps, General Jurokeen leaned over a table, watching Skarn positions shift like bacteria in a dish. "They're fragmenting," he said. "They've shifted 2 officers per unit," replied a Quark's comms analyst. "Hoping redundancy keeps the squads intact. They think this is about killing leaders," Jurokeen murmured. "They don't understand. This is about fear." He pulled up Kale's last report. 4 numbers, barely a sentence. Wind direction, coordinates, time to next shot. No commentary, no ego. Out in the field, Kale repositioned along the western basin. He hadn't eaten in a day. Hunger was irrelevant. His breath was slow, heart rate shallow. The wind curled across his exposed cheek. He blinked once, then adjusted his sights. Below him, a Skarn detachment clustered near a relay node. They were reinforcing it with portable jammers and relay amplifiers. One of them, a lieutenant with a flared collar, removed his helmet to shout at his engineers. Kale watched the movement of his lips, barked orders, irritation, a vulnerability. He exhaled, The shot didn't just hit the officer. It punched through him, cracking the relay casing behind. The power surged, overloading the backup battery. Sparks spilled across the dry surface. Screams followed. Kale didn't stay to admire the chaos. He was already gone, crawling down a dead slope while the Skarn fired wildly at the ridgelines, hitting only stone. They launched retaliation drones within the hour, multi-limb machines with scent-tracking algorithms and UV beam combs. Kale laid a false trail of protein paste and old rations in a nearby cave. When the drones entered, he triggered a compression mine he'd built from scavenged battery cells. The blast was small, precise, enough to destroy without drawing attention. From the safety of the canyon shadows, Kale whispered into his mic, "Drones disabled, western flank exposed." In the command bunker, a Volthree officer blinked rapidly, unable to hide her awe. "That entire route is open now." "Send no one yet," Juro Keen replied. "Let the silence sink in." It did, and in that silence, the Skarn began to unravel further. They started broadcasting propaganda over open channels. Recordings of captured council soldiers pleading, demanding Kale face them directly. They used human voices, distorted and looped. The bait was obvious. Kale didn't respond. Instead, he targeted the transmission source, tracking the hum of its signal to a disguised comms tower. One shot. The antenna snapped. Another. The power relay shorted out. Static replaced the voices. The Skarn responded with fury. They launched beacon flares across 4 ridgelines and swept them with incendiary drones. Hills burned, ash falling like snow. But they never touched Kale. He had moved into the high crags, deep inside a magnetic dead zone. No tech worked there. No drones entered. Just stone, wind, and the sound of distant thunder. It was there he cleaned his weapon, piece by piece, in the dark. The next morning, 2 Skarn were found with clean shots through their visors, killed without warning as they tried to evacuate supplies. They had been alone. No battle. No noise. Just death and silence. Inside the council base, Juro Keen stared at a shifting map of Skarn troop movement. Their units had begun collapsing inward, bunching into tight, mobile formations around command structures. "They're choking themselves," he said. "They've locked down their own mobility," added the analyst. "They're terrified of open space." Krell appeared on the hololink, her face tense. "Your sniper's campaign is effective, but not sustainable." "It doesn't need to be," Juro Keen said. "We only need one more strike. Something decisive." He didn't send that order to Kale. He didn't have to. Out in the eastern basin, Kale spotted movement. A command skiff, flanked by 2 walkers, was moving toward an extraction point. It was heavily shielded, but not perfect. Kale moved across the slope, like smoke, slowly closing the angle. He didn't run. He waited for the sun's angle to align, shadows to mask. He breathed in. 2 walkers. No distractions. He focused on the skiff. His gloved finger rested lightly against the trigger. The skiff's door opened. A tall figure emerged. Skarn war leader Torkelkir, covered in adaptive armor, helmet off, barking orders with wide, confident gestures. Arrogance. Exposure. Kale didn't hesitate. One shot. Torkel's body folded before the words left his mouth. The walkers froze. The guard scrambled, firing into the dust, but the damage was done. The war leader was gone. The signal to retreat came moments later. The Skarn lines cracked. Across the valley, entire platoons abandoned posts. Walkers staggered, drones recalled. The commanders had no orders. Their central voice had vanished with a single bullet. Back in the command bunker, Juro Keen received a silent update, an automated pulse from Kale's transmitter. No words, just a timestamp. The war had changed in that moment, and Kale was already gone. Dust rose in thin veils from the battered terrain, carried on winds that howled through fractured canyons and over scorched ridgelines. The battlefield had fallen eerily still. Where once the Skarn moved in brazen columns, they now lurked in clusters, huddled behind kinetic shields and false terrain. Their formations were broken. their communications fractured, their commanders silenced one by one. And yet, the final blow had yet to fall. From the shadows of a wind-carved bluff, Orion Kale studied the enemy's last stand. A temporary fortress had been erected around the crash site of a Skarn transport carrier, repurposed into a command hub. Antennae bristled from its shell, guarded by rotating plasma cannons and surrounded by an electrified perimeter. Every hour, shuttles ferried in supplies and evacuees. Every hour, the Skarn grew more paranoid. They knew he was still out there. Kale moved without noise, stepping between crags with the stillness of a passing thought. His cloak was laced with reactive fibers that shifted with the terrain. His rifle was now more an extension of his will than a tool. He had fired 18 shots since insertion, 18 confirmed kills, each one a keystone in the unraveling of a military empire. He lay prone beneath the ridge, less than a kilometer from a makeshift base. Winds gusted sporadically, sending waves of red grit across his visor. He did not blink. Through his scope, Kale tracked a tall figure emerging from the main bunker. Skarn High Strategist Veltaker, cloaked in glimmering command armor, flanked by guards. This was the last voice of organized resistance in the quadrant. Every intel report confirmed it. He was the mind holding the line. Kale adjusted his scope to compensate for the fluctuating magnetic interference. The Skarn had flooded the area with low-frequency jammers and layered shielding, designed to warp light and sound. But even their best countermeasures could not shift gravity or erase movement. Kale's crosshairs held steady. He slowed his breath. Heart rate, 45 BPM. Wind, south by southeast for 0.2 kilometers per hour. Distance, 944 meters. Elevation drop, 27 degrees. He exhaled slowly. One shot. The round punched cleanly through Veltaker's armor and out the other side. The strategist crumpled before his guards even realized what had happened. Screams followed. Alarms rose. Light snapped on in every direction, bathing the ridgeline in artificial fire. Drones soared. Weapons fired wildly into the rocks. But Kale was already gone, vanishing into the shifting dusk. Panic tore through the Skarn ranks like wildfire. Entire battalions requested immediate extraction. The final command structure splintered as regional officers overrode each other's orders. Ships broke formation midair. Soldiers abandoned their posts, retreating toward transport beacons like animals fleeing a fire. Inside the Council's primary command station, General Drukeen watched the collapse unfold in real time. Dozens of red signals. Skarn units flickered, vanished, or turned tail. The warfront data shifted by the second. Even the most cynical analysts had no words. A young Quarix officer turned toward him. They're retreating, General. Full-scale withdrawal. They've abandoned the Varela system. Drukeen stood in silence for a moment, eyes scanning the maps, watching enemy signatures flicker out one by one. Send a transmission, he said finally, to Earth. Tell them the sniper ended the war. A murmur spread through the chamber. Council officers from once dismissive species now spoke of Kale in reverent tones. The Selniks, who once mocked human projectiles, requested a data-sharing agreement. The Volthree proposed an Earth-led training initiative. Even Krell, appearing through a secure holo feed, offered a clipped nod of acknowledgement. They fight differently, she said, but undeniably. Kale did not return to base immediately. For 2 more days, he roamed the craters and valleys, disabling leftover drones and planting seismic beacons to mark unexploded ordnance. He buried one fallen council scout he had found near a gully, covering the body with smooth stones. No one witnessed this. No one needed to. When he finally approached the landing zone, the extraction team waited in silence. No fanfare. Just one Quarix soldier saluting as Kale stepped aboard the drop shuttle. His rifle slung, armor dusty and scorched. Inside the transport, he sat alone. The pilot didn't speak. The engine hummed. As the shuttle lifted above the ruined world, Kale looked down once. The battlefield below was quiet. Not a single Skarn signal remained. At Earth's diplomatic station on Citadel Prime, news of the sniper's impact spread like wildfire. The phrase human precision doctrine became part of strategic lexicons. Recruitment to Earth's recon programs tripled. For the first time in the Council's history, a single soldier's name was etched into galactic defense records. Kale refused the commendations. He refused the medals. He refused promotion. He requested cryosleep. When asked why, he simply replied, "Wake me when you forget again." In the weeks that followed, analysts debated how it happened. How one man had unraveled a war machine spanning 5 systems. Some pointed to tactics, others to psychology. A few still clung to disbelief. But those who had served near him, the ones who watched him shape a battlefield with silence, knew the truth. Humans were never clumsy. They were just waiting for their turn to aim.